All right, welcome back, guys, to another Tim Cain reaction. It has been a hot minute since we watched him, so we have some videos to catch up on. That is my YouTube interview introduction for people on Twitch. Let's go see what Tim has to say on recognizing good coworkers. They're hot. That's how you recognize them. No.
Hi everyone, it's me, Tim.
Hi, Tim.
Today I want to talk about recognizing good coworkers. And by good, I mean good for working with for you.
I mean, I think that's also, I know I'm already pausing it. I think that good coworkers are also just good team players. Like, they don't have to be great at what they do. They don't have to be the best listeners. They don't have to understand what they're doing perfectly. I would rather work with somebody who is kind of inexperienced, but is a really good team player and really communicative, than somebody who is a lone wolf or a martyr, or somebody who has like some weird ego complex problems. I'm not going to say who, but I was talking to somebody recently who is acquainted with other people that I've worked with before, and he comes up to you. I'll pretend to be him, okay? I will be this guy. Well, hey there. Oh, you're working on games? Oh, yeah, see, I just know everything about games. I know absolutely everything that you need to know. Oh, you made a mistake. Typical. People making mistakes. That kind of person. It was like main character syndrome, and the moment you talk to him, you just feel like, you just like, I would never, I'm not working with this guy. I would never want to work with this guy. Thank God I'm not working with this guy. And I don't know if he knows that he's like that. But I was, this was like my first time meeting him, and then I went to my friend afterwards when we were alone. I'm like, does that guy like have some problems? And my friend was just like, so that's the problem with the new guy. I'm like, oh shit. I was like, I thought I was reading him wrong, or maybe I just got the wrong feeling with him. Main characters are not self-aware. Pretty true.
And I wanted to talk about this because making games is very stressful.
It is.
So that's come out in my videos. And you see all kinds of behaviors from people when they're stressed. And I wanted to talk about that because
very true. Very
if
sad.
you're lucky, you can find some people that you really love working with, and that together you make really good games with, and you can stick with those people for decades. I have. Mm-hmm. Now, when people get stressed, there's some people that fall into one of two camps. Either they just start saying yes to everything. They're yes men. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Tim, that's a great idea. Let's do it. And they're doing this because they just want to avoid argument. They just tell me what to do. I'll do it. And while it seems nice, you're not having any discussions on things.
Well, it's also not making the game better. I've worked with somebody like this. You know what I bet the other person is too? The people that lash out. Or I think there's three. I think there's people that just say yes to everything. There's people that hole up and don't make any decisions. I can sometimes get in that mood when I'm really, really stressed. And there's people that lash out. Again, I can sometimes have these when I am in that situation. It's really, really hard to control when things are just piling up. And none of them make the game better. You can't have somebody shut down when they're stressed, because then they're not an effective team member. You can have somebody that says yes to everything, because then they're not making any decisions about what's good for the game, especially if they're in a position that needs to make proper decisions for the game. And if they lash out, that can just have a ripple effect of people, rising in tensions. It's really hard, and it's an important reason why you need to not shoulder the burden of everything yourself. You need to have people that you can delegate to offload that responsibility, so that when something is wrong with the programming, I don't have to worry about it. I can rely on my lead programmer to handle that problem and put out that fire. And I've seen people who get overstressed and overworked because they don't like to delegate, or they like the feeling of holding so many positions and playing the marionette for the entire game, and then they're only putting in 10% of their effort into 10 different responsibilities, and nothing gets done. Like, it doesn't matter if you are good at what you do. If you don't have enough time to do it effectively, then you are not actually effectively doing the job that you're supposed to be doing. So you would be better off giving it to somebody who is less effective or less knowledgeable, but is spending 100% of their time thinking about it. And arguably, by doing that, you're training up another potential leader to take that position from you. And now everybody wins in the end. Every single person in the end of that scenario wins. The person gets training, which makes them more loyal to the company, which makes them more money, which usually makes them more happy in some ways. And you get to offload all of that responsibility to somebody that you can trust to do that work. I'm sorry,
Things aren't
please,
getting improved.
please continue, Tim.
Conversely, there's a lot of people that just fall into the no camp. They're just like, no, no. I've worked with not one, but two programmers who got a nickname because of how frequently they would say no. And this was often done, they did it because they didn't see an immediate solution to what you were asking for, and they didn't want to spend any more time looking for solutions.
I think in fairness, Tim, that can happen sometimes too because you have a poorly planned production pipeline and a schedule that has no room for anything else. And sometimes the first solution that you come up with that is the quickest solution may not be the best, but it is the only one that you have time for. I don't think that's what you're meaning, to be fair, but there are some situations where I've been in the place and where I've just had to say no to things because we've made the decision to go with route A and we have literally no time and budget to go with any other route. It doesn't matter what it is. We've already invested too much into this. It's, save it for the sequels, kind of what it comes down to.
And they were stressed. They were already had a lot on their plate, and you were effectively walking to their office going, I had this idea, and it throws a lot more stuff on your plate. So the stress is stuff that exists, but I want to talk about people agreeing with you or disagreeing with you and how that should factor into whether you want to work with them. Many people disagree with you, but not for reasons you think. I've disagreed with people, some coworkers. I've even argued with them. But in the end, we respect each other, and we've worked with each other for decades.
Yeah,
and
there are some people. Look. If Tim's been a game designer, which he has, and I'm a game designer. Game designers are notorious for clashing with each other because everybody wants to be the vision holder for a game, and it takes a lot of effort to hand off that vision as a designer to somebody else. But that's a really important thing to be able to do, which is what I'm doing with System Break, and I think that that's going to make me a better leader when I come out of it. But designers clash, and it can sometimes get personal, or you would just disagree with the philosophies that this other person operates on. For me, I operate on depth through simplicity. I like making things that are simple to understand, but then offer a lot of gameplay depth through certain choices or actions and emergent gameplay that can occur from that. Other designers would gladly just add on more systems and complexity because those are the types of games that they like playing, and that's the philosophies that they subscribe to. And ultimately, I'm not going to see eye to eye with a designer that thinks that way. And if you make the mistake of hiring somebody that does think that way, then you might clash a lot, and it might be for reasons that aren't. It's not always necessarily personal, but it's just fundamentally you're at odds with the way that you think and the way you design. Sometimes being the guy who says no is a job, an explicit job. If you don't give that job to someone, people will start volunteering for it, even when they need to be solution oriented. I don't disagree, other Zach. I think that if you are in like lead design, game director, production, I think these are probably the three most important jobs in any game for saying no. And I think that both like lead programmer and art director are also very important for that. But it's really the people at like the top of that chain that need to be where the buck stops. And if they say no, it means no. You can try to convince them. You can try to pull out some data or some prototypes, but ultimately, that's where the buck stops. Hey, Sardo. Am I crazy for wanting to build everything yourself? You're working as a mechanical engineer for constructor architects, just want to make games on the side. Don't do everything yourself. It's nearly impossible. I think, try to find the things that you're good at, double down on those, and then use like assets and plugins to fill in the blanks if you want to make a game yourself. It's really, really hard. It's nearly impossible. Only a few people can actually succeed in making entire games from scratch on their own.
You to be able to have that experience. And that's what it really boils down to. You can work with people as long as you respect them and they respect you, even if you don't always agree.
Yes.
And that's really important. A lot of people think the agreement is the important part, but it's not. It's the respect part. Because as soon as people lose any respect for you or you lose respect for them, it's really hard for you guys to work together, and the game development becomes really, really hard, and the game will suffer.
Well, because then it becomes personal, it becomes toxic. And I've worked in places like this. I've seen it constantly. It's very, very rife in game dev as well as probably other entertainment jobs because everybody knows that they are replaceable. There are very few people in any studio that are irreplaceable with enough time and effort and money. So people kind of compete with each other. They get defensive. They get vulnerable. And I don't even blame anybody for feeling this. So you want to be seen as doing your job competently and being irreplaceable, even though you really are. So you can kind of compete. You can form these like cliques. If you're liked by your team, then that's going to influence the CEO to not fire you, for instance. And I think that in studios where there's greater hierarchy and greater differences in communication between the top and the bottom of the food chain, you often see this behavior more. Flatter hierarchies with more experienced people, with adults who have had a chance to mature a bit, usually don't see this as much. And I've worked in places that are like that. They were very nice. There was no vulnerability, there was no ego. Everybody was there to do their specialized job and to learn from each other and to help each other. It's very rare, but it can work. You just need to build your culture and build your team in a way that puts this at the forefront, which is why when we hire for Microraptor games, we hire, I look at people's personality, their goals, who they are as a person before I even look at their experience. Because to me, that's really what separates a good teammate from somebody who I wouldn't want to work with, no matter how competent or good they are.
So how can you tell? How can you see that respect from others? It's not anything. I think you should go by what they say, because there are people who are super quiet and they don't say things, and there's other people who blow smoke and will tell you all kinds of things. So I try to make this constructive and also by action. So this is like an action-based list of for you to look at someone and go, do I think that person respects me? And the first one is, are they truthful to you? So when they're disagreeing, is it because they actually think that their idea is better?
Well, this is even beyond. This is one of the reasons why transparency is one of our core values as a company, is purely because I've worked at places where I've been lied to in order to keep morale high. And I'm sorry, but it doesn't matter if you're doing it for a good reason. If you are a CEO and you are openly lying to your teammates, to your team, you do not respect them and you do not see them as adults who can handle some bad news once in a while. I understand the importance of leading a ship, but if you are the leader, if you are sitting there up in the crow's nest looking for icebergs and you see one approaching, and then you tell your team, clear waters, keep on moving forward. I'm sorry, but they're going to hit that iceberg eventually. And they're going to ask, why the fuck did you tell us that there wasn't an iceberg in front of us? And they're not going to respect you and they're not going to trust you. If you see an iceberg and you say, iceberg ahead, at least they can be like, well, he didn't put the iceberg ahead of us. It's not his fault. In fact, he warned us the moment he saw it. And then I know it's kind of a weird analogy because the guy, up in the crow's nest is not going to be steering the ship, but just pretend that for this analogy, it's the same person. They can be like, okay, well, he warned us, he saw it, now he's going to steer us out of trouble. So that's why the Titanic sank. There's a lot of reasons why the Titanic sank. But I've been in places like that. Just don't lie. Just don't lie. It's never worth it. There's no long-term benefit to lying that the short-term benefits will ever outweigh. Yeah, that's the right way to put that. Just don't do it. Transparency. If something bad happens, say it. A CEO needs the team as much as the team needs the leader, right? And If you present, hey, team, we have this really bad thing that's happening, and we're going to try to find a way around it. But right now, this is where we're at. Maybe your team can come talk to you. They can come provide some possible solutions to you. Maybe somebody's dealt with a problem that you haven't dealt with. That's the reason why you have a fucking team. And if you can't rely on your team, then you're not a team player either. You're just some asshole who owns a team and doesn't even have the good graces to tell them the truth. Fuck you. It's not respect. That's just control.
And they want to discuss it with you. You want people like that because some people will lie to you. I've talked about that. People will just lie to your face in this industry. And even worse, they'll lie by omission. They know something, but they don't tell you because there's some end result they want. And if you knew something, they would not tell you. So pay attention to how people talk to you. And there's a sidebar on this. Sometimes people just will bypass you. They don't want to lie to you, either by commission or omission. So they go around you and get other people to do something they want. And I've talked about this. And then either they lie about doing it or they tell the people they told it to lie to you. And it all comes down to just a huge mess.
The moment you find somebody like that, get rid of them. That is not the first time that they've done that. That's not the last time that they've done that. Maybe you could give them the good grace to sit down and be really harsh and say, look, this is your ultimatum. You pull that shit again, you're out of here. Like that. You're not being a team player. You're not causing a good environment. You're not helping other people. You're actively hindering people. There's ways to get things done, telling the truth, that are positive for everybody. Just treat people like adults. Jesus Christ. You love making assets, modular buildings. What's the best platform to share my work with, to even get in touch with other game devs, artists? There's a lot of like art-based discords, and like the game dev discord is a great way to share and get some feedback. That's really what it comes down to. If you want to like work on games and show your work, join game jams. Find a game jam that looks interesting here and see if you can join a team. Hold on. There you go.
That's why I always tell you, pay attention to what people do, not to necessarily what they say. And then another way to tell if people are being respectful is watch how they treat people. Because this goes into like how you should treat people fairly. Let's talk about like treating me fairly. If you call me out on things that I had absolutely no control over, I was screamed at once for having chicken pox for 2 weeks and how this was costing the company money and moving a ship date.
Oh. Yeah, see, Tim's face, that's my face when I hear that too.
Yeah, like I really wanted to get chicken pox and strep throat at the same time and run 104 degree
exactly.
fever.
What a choice.
Have hallucinations that I was at a Depeche Mode concert. Totally my choice.
I once had a similar situation where it was right after Christmas holidays. I got like one of the worst sinus infections I've ever fucking gotten in my life. Like just blood was just coming out of my nose, and there's nothing you can do for that at a certain point. Like if it gets really bad, then you should go see a doctor, but at a certain point they're just going to tell you you need to rest and drink fluids. That's it. And so they were mad at me that I didn't go to a doctor and get a note to prove that I was sick. When I'm like, why would I waste money? I don't have health insurance right now, so why would I waste money for them to tell me to go back home, sit in bed, and drink water when I don't even feel good enough to get out of bed right now? What do you want me to do? And this, by the way, was at a time where here's where the company was. Sorry, Tim, I'm going to draw on your face for a second. Here's the roads. A little dangerous. And here was the company. And here's where I lived. If they wanted to prove that I'm sick, they can just come to my apartment. I was right there. They're a bunch of assholes.
Another way that people might treat you unfairly is I've had people hold me to standards that no one else got held to. Like I literally have been punished with not getting a promotion or a bonus because of something that no one else was being held to. I've mentioned this before about, when sometimes I get held responsible for things on games where I wasn't the lead in charge of that area, or there were two leads, and yet I'm responsible and not the other person. So I watch when people do this, and I'm like, that person doesn't treat people fairly. But something that triggers me personally more than treating me unfairly is if I see you treating other people unfairly. A friend of mine said that is my trigger. When I see someone treating someone else very unfairly, I just go off on them.
Yeah,
And
I've seen stuff like this. I think in Tim's O face. This is Tim Pogchamp. I've seen some stuff like that, especially where companies will either subconsciously or purposefully promote those martyrs and mavericks within the team. Better get Tim Pogchamp face saved. Yeah, get that Rex. Get that saved and make that a new emote for us. I've seen cases like that where like Mavericks and Martyrs will get promoted, and then everybody else will get held to the same standards. Like, well, this person came in and did work overtime and did work on the weekend. Why didn't you do that? In fact, I had almost that exact situation happen where I was finishing up game A, and we were supposed to be pre-producing game B. But I am needed so much on game A that I have literally zero free time to work on game B. I'm overstressed, I'm overworked, I'm burning the hell out. I have no time on game B. And I'm getting shit on because I'm not working on game B, even though I need to be on game A, otherwise this game gets fucked up. As I think that the intention, what they wanted me to do, was literally just to not think about game A, because they weren't going to make much money from it anyway, and to focus on game B. But now by doing that, I'm actively not only sabotaging the team, but I'm sabotaging the game just to go work on a game that's going to be better for the company as a whole. I'm sorry, I know it's a hard decision, but you can't ask me to make that decision. You really can't. I'm not going to be the one responsible for letting the entire team go without assistance, design, and answers, just so that at the end of the day your stock price goes up a little bit. If you wanted to produce game A properly, then you should have fucking done that. And that wasn't my job, and it wasn't my job to hire the person to do that properly. That was your job to do that, and you failed to do that. So you eat the shit. You take the bowl of shit and you shove it in your mouth.
Off on them. And especially when that other person can't react. Like, I once yelled at my boss for yelling at someone on my team. And he pulled me aside later and goes, "How dare you disrespect me like that in front of the team?" And I'm like you were disrespecting that employee? You could have talked to him later, but you chose to yell at him in front of a team meeting. So I chose to yell at you. You don't like it? Don't do it. It was that kind of thing. He wanted to act a certain way, but how dare anyone act like that with him? And that was super annoying for me.
How dare you? Greta Thunberg moment. Yeah, I had some similar stuff happen where I once had a boss try to gaslight the entire team about how to make good pitches for publishers, and I called him out on it. Like, this was a presentation that he was giving, and I called him out on it in that moment. And I said, this is just absolutely not true. From everything that I've read and I've seen and I've heard from other people who've done pitches, everything you're saying right now is actively false. And the reason that I said that is because I think that he was trying to save face when I called him out on it before. I think he was trying to, play like the team politics. And so I just said, this isn't true. And everything that the publishers are showing on their own websites aren't true. They wouldn't ask for a game build if a game build wasn't necessary for evaluating whether the game pitch was good or not. And the very fact that you've never successfully sold a pitch without a working game build should also show that even in your own limited experiments, that what you're saying right now has never proven to be true. He got very upset at me for saying that and called me disloyal and a whole bunch of other shit for calling him out. But it's like, well, if you didn't want to be questioned about that, then you shouldn't have made the presentation in front of everybody. Like, what's the point? And by the way, to date, still no successful game pitch without a proper working game build. And it's even worse than it was at that time.
By the way, this is a way, if you're really looking for people you want to work with, you can also watch how they work, how they act outside of work. I once watched a coworker at lunch absolutely berate a waiter for no reason. Just was going off about stupid stuff that the waiter had no control over. By the way, when we were all leaving, I said I had to go use the bathroom, and instead I went back, added extra tip, and told the waiter I would be coming back to this restaurant, but not with that coworker. And
Based.
that coworker went on my do not work with list.
Yeah. Well, it's not even the do not work with list. It's the I never want to speak to this person ever again. Like, it's just a red flag for who you want to hang around with. God, I would never want to hang around with somebody like that. They go straight to the DNR list. Yeah, it's. Hey, I mean, you learn very quickly. I will never hire this person, and there's a lot of people that are like that. That are just. I once had somebody I worked with. Let's just say that, who. We were at a game convention where there were a lot of games being shown off, and he had a lot of free time. And so we asked him, because we had already gone around and played some games in our limited free time, our more limited free time. We had gone around and played some games and talked to some of the developers there. And we had asked him, hey, did you go around and you play any games? And he said, I don't have enough time to play games. I make too much money. He makes too much money to be able to play games. Interesting. Okay. That's a turnoff.
Don't know if he knows, cares. It was decades ago. But I never worked with that person again.
Right.
Because I had a teacher once that said, watch how people treat children and
Animals.
Animals. And I added to that service people in retail and who are providing you services. If people treat those people badly, who knows how they're going to act if you have to work with them, and God forbid they ever become your boss.
Well, like animals and children, I think animals show empathy, right? Because you can't communicate with them. And that's not to say that everybody who treats animals well is going to be a good person to talk to, but it shows one aspect. I think, when you look at kids and you interact with kids, if you're good at doing it, it shows that you can put yourself in the shoes of how you were when you were that young. And you need to understand that there are going to be some slip-ups. There are going to be mistakes. That children learn by mimicking. They learn by experimenting. They're going to do really dumb shit, and they're going to do the shit that you do in front of them because that's what they think adults do, and they want to be adults. They want to learn. And I think when you think about service industry people, this is how do you treat people that are meant to be providing you with something, but you need to separate the fact that this does not mean that you are the god, that they're still human, that they can still make mistakes, and not everything is their responsibility. Just like in a workplace, not everything is your responsibility. I think Tim's list is very good. Animals, kids, and service people. It's the same thing. I've gotten a little bit bitchy at service people before, but it's mostly because I know that they have. It's mostly like customer service representatives, like on the phone, who it's like, okay, I understand that you do not have the responsibility to help me with this problem. Transfer me to somebody who does. And the worst ones, the ones that are like, oh, he's really busy right now. It's like, okay, put me on hold. Oh, we can't do that. Okay, have him call me back. Here's my number. Well, we can't call outside. It's like, well, okay, so I need my problem solved. I'm calling the people to help solve the problem. You tell me that you don't have the power to do it, but you won't transfer me to somebody who does. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Joey, I want to speak to your manager, Raptor. Yeah, I don't know. It's some places are much better than others.
So that's a big sign to look for. Another, and probably a big one, a sign of disrespect you can look for is when someone is talking to someone who's an absolute expert in some
Yeah.
area, and they start their sentence with, "Can't you just?" And I've seen this in everything. "Can't you just change the AI to do this? Can't you just interpolate the missing frames in that animation? Can't you just swap the..." And they're talking to someone who's an absolute expert at this, and they have never done it. It's one thing if I'm talking to another programmer and I'm like, "Can't you just?" But if I'm talking to an artist, I would never just say, "Can't you just?" Because I
I can see what Tim's saying. I was originally kind of disagree with him, but I think a lot of it depends on tone, right? Where you think you understand something and you're asking, "Well, couldn't you just do this?" And they say, "Oh no, because this would cause this problem." And you're like, "Oh, I didn't know that." I think that some of this is you framing your understanding based on what you think that you know and letting the expert clarify and correct where you're wrong. I think there are better ways to maybe say this, or different ways to say this that may not come off in that way, but I think a lot of it depends on context and tone and the way that you're speaking. Because I talk to a lot of people who are like fantastic artists, and I know nothing about art, and I've said the "can't you just" before, but it's because I thought like, hey, there's a way to do this, and usually it's like, well, you can, but this is a really inefficient way, so we tend to do it this way, and this way, and then we can jump into how to do it more properly, more efficiently. I think that some of this depends on tone.
would never just say, "Can't you just?" Because I don't know anything about art. I'm not good at judging it. I've never done it. So
Yeah.
I watch people who do that. And I know some people who do it frequently. And basically, what they're doing is they're completely disrespecting experts in other fields, even though they don't have an iota of expertise in that field.
Yeah, and some of that, I mean, I get that sometimes in Twitch chat. Sorry. Sorry, Twitch chat. Sometimes you guys do this to me. And I think that a lot of the tone is lost in like chatting, where you guys might just be asking something in the same way that you're trying to frame the question based on your own knowledge so far, but you're not trying to appear, like you're one-upping. It's just fucking Twitch chat. And this is one of the issues with like remote communication. Once a producer say to me, "This shouldn't take long. That's a solved problem," I got very mad. Just because someone had solved a similar or the same problem doesn't mean that solution maps to your code. Yeah, everybody is different in the way that they'll solve things. Like some things that are really easy to me are really hard by others, and other things that take me a long time um, are solved in like mere moments by other people. Just add the button that makes it good. Just press the button that makes it good, right? Why don't you just get more money to make CC?
So,
Because I don't suck in a
what does all
publisher's
this come
dick.
to? I basically want to tell you disagreeing with coworkers is fine. In fact, it's a good
Yes.
idea. When you disagree with someone, it may be because they're coming up with a different idea for a feature, they're coming up with a different solution to a design or a programming issue, or they're coming up with a different process. It may be a producer and they're like, if we reordered these tasks or we did something early, their process may be better than yours. I have a whole video on ideas of mine that got rejected because someone else came up with a better idea.
Yes.
So that's why you want that disagreement. You want someone to feel like they can come up to you and go, "I don't agree with something we're doing."
But in order to do that, they need to trust, they need to respect you, they need to feel as if you'll actually listen to them and not berate them. Nobody wants to spend their time coming up with an idea to somebody who just says, "No, no, no, my idea is better," and runs with that, right? And there's a lot of solo developers, there's a lot of modders that are like that, which is why I say you shouldn't just hire modders because they make good mods. That doesn't mean that they're good teammates, and it doesn't mean that they know how to work in a team. Yeah, it's not. There's a lot that I can say about this, but I'm just gonna let Tim finish.
But here's even better than that. Sometimes their idea isn't better than yours, it works better with yours. So they may have an idea for something, and when they tell you, you're like, "You know what we could do?
Yeah, play the what if game.
We could do elements of both of these, and the result would be a lot better." You will never get that synergy unless you are open to disagreement with people and talk about stuff.
Well, yeah, because ultimately game development is just problem after problem after problem, right? And it's not like every problem is unknown. They're just this is a hurdle that you have to resolve. And you might know how to do it. You might have done it before. You might not have done it before. Whatever it is still a challenge that you have to overcome. And that is a problem which might have one or multiple steps that you need to overcome by talking about it, figuring something out that you've never done before, challenging yourself in ways that you've never challenged yourself. And ultimately, if you cannot deal with conflict, you will never solve problems. And you cannot ignore problems if you don't open up the door to the conflict of, hey, how do we solve this? And you need to be able to know how to step on your ego and stomp it out enough to be able to go up to somebody and say, hey, can you help me with this? I have no idea what I'm doing. This is a field that I've never worked in before, right? I've never touched state trees. So I'm just going to listen to people that know things about AI, that have talked about it, that have worked on it before. I did that at Digital Dragons. I talked to an old colleague of mine who's a lead programmer who's jumped into state trees. And I was just like, okay, tell me about state trees. What are they? Oh, so they can do this, this, and this better? Oh, I see. And, just listen, and figure out, is this the right pathway forward for us? Yes, let's do it. And now I know who to ask if I have a problem with state trees. Everyone should do competitive improv at least once. I just pushed a coworker harder towards a different solution. It wasn't comfortable, but in the end we got a better result and he was clearly happier with it despite initial resistance. Yeah, I think some people are always, like, everybody's happier in their comfort zones, or most people are. And sometimes you have to be the leader that just gives people that push. Like, just jump in, just try to solve this. If you get stuck, I'm right over here. Let me know. But try to solve it yourself. Get frustrated and then come to me. You know why CC didn't get picked up? Not enough swords, not enough melee combat? Shut up, Dramox.
And what worries me is if you stop working with someone because you disagree with them, or you aren't friends with someone, or even you stop watching a YouTuber because you disagree with them. I mean, I've seen people leave comments on here that I'm not going to call anyone out, but the paraphrase is, Tim, I've agreed with everything you've said up till now, but I don't agree with this. I've got to unsubscribe. I'm like, oh, okay. But if one disagreement is going to make you write someone off forever, you're going to live in a very, very small circle,
bubble,
and it's going to be a bubble.
Exactly, it's going to be a bubble. Yeah,
100%.
Yeah. I mean, but that happens even beyond game dev. That's just literally tribalism. I mean, we see that with politicians. We see that with celebrities. We see that with literally any human that's alive. Right now, I could say I've liked some of the things that Jordan Peterson has said. I think that some of the things that Andrew Tate has said are accurate, even if I don't agree with his method of resolving it. I think that some things Tim Cain has said I disagree with and have, some problems with. Literally all these things can trigger certain people in different ways. I think some of the things that Donald Trump has done, I agree with. Simple as that. I think some of the things Obama did, I agree with. Some of the things Joe Biden did, I agree with. It doesn't mean that I like or hate these people. It just means that in some cases, the pendulum is a bit over this way, and in some cases, over this way. But that does not mean that I agree with everything these people say or do, or like or dislike these people on the basis of everything that comes out of their mouth or every action that they perform. The same as with, this one has gotten me in a lot of trouble before, the LGBTQ community. I'm sorry, but I don't subscribe blindly to groups of people who have no central motive or method of interacting with the world. And you can't just jump on a train, do a whole bunch of bad things, and say, well, you have to agree with what I'm doing because the train itself is promoting a good purpose. No. Actions individually and the things that people say individually are treated individually. I don't care what group you're with. I don't care what political party you're with. I will judge everything on an individual merit based on some nuance. Cancelled, clipped, shimped, let's go. Peterson, Tate, and LGBTQ mentioned. Yeah, the YouTube video on this one is going to go crazy with warnings. Here, let's mention COVID, the Holocaust, Lizzo, and obesity. Let's just add everything to the list of controversial topics to mention. But no, don't subscribe to bubbles. Like, look, you can watch, I don't know, like Joe Rogan. Let's say you watch some Joe Rogan. Does that mean that everybody that Joe Rogan has on his podcast you agree with? Probably not. Does that mean everything that comes out of Joe Rogan's mouth you agree with? Of course not. But you watch him probably because he puts out unfiltered, unedited, full length interviews with people from all across the world, all across different spectrums. And you watch the ones that you watch and you listen and you're like, I agree with that. I don't agree with that. Okay, next one. That's what the world should be. But most people can't handle nuance because nuance is inherently inviting in vulnerabilities. By saying, I don't know, or I need to learn, you are saying that you are not smart enough to know this thing right now. If you have anybody talking about Israel and Palestine, there's literally three type of people in this world, and I only want to interact with one of those. There's either people that say everything Gaza does is great, everything Israel does is great, and the third set of people, I'm not going to put up my middle finger for you guys, but the third set of people are like, you know what, I just don't know enough about this to have an informed opinion. And I think that in most cases, nobody knows enough to have a perfectly informed opinion about this conflict. So just don't have one. You don't have to have one. You can sit there and say war is bad. I don't like when people die. Great. I mean, some people will tell you, oh, you're just not taking a side. No, I'm taking the side of, I think that there's a lot of bullshit on both sides, and I just don't want to see people die. It's not that difficult. Maybe just stop killing people over their religious beliefs. Did you ever think maybe that's an option? You ever think maybe the Jews shouldn't be killed for the fact that they're Jewish? Or Muslims shouldn't be killed for the fact that they're Muslims? Oh my God. The Matrix has been opened. There's your red pill.
And let me just tell you, you're not going to get better games out of that little bubble. So what I'm telling you here, as constructively as possible, is relish finding people who disagree with you. Just make sure that the people who disagree with you still respect you in all the ways I've talked about. If you can find those people, hang on to them. Your games will be better for it. And I've found a few people like that I've literally worked with for over 30 years. So I hope you find those people too.
Cuthbert and I think, are those types of people. We are just very honest with each other. And if he needs to tell me some harsh truths, I know that I can trust him to do so. And I would hope that, I'm not him, but I would hope that in the same as in the opposite way. And we just work better. We just help each other. We don't think one of us is better than the other. I think that he does things that are better than me, and I do some things that are better than him because we have our specializations. Oops, sorry. So that's the way it is. That was a good video. That was a really good video from Tim. I had a lot to say on that, and I probably don't have enough time to watch the second one, so I will add that to watch later. Where is that? Save. Watch later. There we go. But that one was really good. Guys, go give Tim a like and subscribe for that, please. He is on his way to 200,000 subscribers. Let's help him get a little bit closer to that. And thank you for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, take care, and I will catch you on the next Tim Cain video or the next System Break video. Bye-bye, YouTube.